Hello, everyone, and welcome to Light Language Messenger. And for those of you watching on the Great Awakening Generator, very welcome here too. Wow. It's been a long time since we did one of these invocations or we did any light language. And I want to firstly say thank you for your patience and understanding. As you can hear, I still have a little bit of the remnants of the flu. I had done all those invocations leading up to New Year's Day for bringing in dragons, the energy of the gold-crested dragon, the crystal yellow dragon, all those dragons. And then I went into the situation of having a really intense flu. Now, if you watch the video or the live chat we did with Sarah Ariana, I was really coughing it out and having a struggle sometimes to speak. So this is the reason why I've actually not done any light language. I've just been going through some clearing and unblocking stuff. And so there you go. So that's what I want to say. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your loyalty. And I appreciate that, even when I was not on, that all of you watched, all of you commented. And I haven't looked at recent comments. I will do that and I will respond. I do that. I take some time to just sit in front of the computer and do that. And I will get to it. We have had a couple of interviews last week, I think it was, and that was great. We had a live chat with Emma Liston, and before that we had, I talked to Michelle Goddard, who is from Harmonic Egg, New Zealand. And hey, check out that interview, check out both of them, because there's some really interesting things that have come through for the new year. And that Harmonic Egg is very interesting. It's the only one we have in Australasia. And, she has invited anybody who felt guided. Michelle has invited anybody who felt guided to do a bit of research, to felt that they had a connection, to basically contact her and see how that goes, if that is for them. So we could have more harmonic eggs here in Australasia. So friends, today, one of the things we did in this last week was, if you've been watching the videos that I've been putting out, you know that my cat CJ was really unwell. And he got quite unwell prior to Christmas, a week or so before. Just when we had that solar flash of the 15th of December, that just around about that time, CJ got really unwell. He seemed to have a really inflated belly, and I took him to the vet, and the vet thought he might have a tumor or an inflated kidney and suggested we do an ultrasound. But she seemed to think it was more his teeth that were the problem and that we should probably do some dental work because he had not been eating regularly, etc. However, sometimes we get information and we think, okay, so I was really not focused on that because I knew there was something else wrong with CJ. However, we took the antibiotics, we took the pain medication, gave that to him with the intention of it making him feel better, and got a quotation for an ultrasound, which discovered at the beginning of last week was actually not a quotation for the ultrasound. It was only for the dental. And if we had known, the ultrasound could have been done sooner, because the ultrasound was not as expensive as, more than $1,000 for dental. But anyway, speaking of money, but we'll just put that aside because there's a point to this. When CJ was unwell that week, I really heard my guide saying to me that it's looking like it's time. And, and that I needed to make a decision. And I kept hearing it needed to be done by the 11th of January. And I thought, okay, that's fine. But when we got to last week and I discovered, I was under misconception and the vet had been closed for most of the festive period and I couldn't find out anymore and all of that. So I didn't really have an opportunity to find out exactly what we could do, or we didn't have the opportunity to do it earlier. We could do the ultrasound. My question was, we do the ultrasound and we find, he's got a tumor or he's got an inflated kidney. What is the result? What do we do? Because CJ was anything between 13 and 16 years old. And so I thought, did I want to put him through that, going through anesthetic, going through all of that at his age? Anyway, over the week, last week, it just progressed. We could see that he was really getting unwell and feeling really uncomfortable. And on Saturday, not this last Saturday, the Saturday before, I just kept hearing my guides just hounding me, like, just get this sorted out with CJ. He needs to have his relief. He needs to be let go. And I kept thinking, oh, am I hearing that? Is it just me? It was just like conflict. Anyway, on Monday, we contacted the vet, and then I said, oh, look, I'm going to go ahead and do the ultrasound, because I thought, oh, well, let's give it a chance. Let's do the ultrasound. They could only book it in for this Tuesday coming up. And then in the 2 days following, CJ just seemed to get worse. And then I took things into my hands on Wednesday, because I'd asked Emma Liston, after we did the live chat, I spoke to her and I said to her, hey, this is what's going on. And so she tuned in, and she basically balanced the unbalanced chakras for him and all of those things. And then she said, Rose, I'll leave this with you now, and we'll talk again in the morning, because I've written some notes, and I think that we will see what the outcome of it is. And overnight, so what I'd done that night was I knew already that I had to make this decision, and I had to call it. We had to make a decision for a euthanasia appointment, because CJ was so uncomfortable, and we had to be kind. We had to put him out of that situation. Anyway, that night I just, I lit some incense. I lit some incense. I did some light language, did some cleansing and clearing. CJ had his own healing crystals that I'd set aside for him, and I would work with him sometimes with the crystals. And so did that, and I prayed with him, and I was just, there. CJ was sleeping on my bed. For the last couple of weeks, he was sleeping on my bed almost every night. And I couldn't stay in the room with him, because if I had to have him in the house, I had to have the door closed, because my dog Baxter was just wanting to chase him and whatever Baxter thought he needed to do with CJ. And I had to keep him separate. And so I was just sleeping, on the sofa or on the couch, and he was having my bedroom. And I'd created this space for him, where I have these lights on my bed frame, and I turned the lights on and just created just a very soft, comforting energy. And that night, Wednesday night last week, I just did some praying with him. I'd done it even prior to Christmas when he was unwell. And then I got myself back into the zone, realizing, okay, we need to do this. And so I did. And the next morning, I called the vet, and I said, well, I actually think we need to be doing this. We need to have an appointment for euthanasia and not for an ultrasound. So let's cancel what we had set up, and we need to do this. In the end, we have a lady who lives across the street, Julie, who is into cat rescue. And what I'd really wanted for CJ was, I wanted a vet to come home and do this at home, because he loved home. He loved the street. He loved this place. And I'm going to tell you shortly why I know that he loved this place, and you will understand. And so we managed to get a vet to come home and do it at home. And he was there in my arms and Julie's arms, because Julie used to look after CJ before I moved here. Right. And we just prayed and did light language. Even before the vet came, I had CJ out in the lounge, and I'd done a session of light language. I pulled some cards. I asked for the dragons to make that journey easy. I asked for the dragons and for the archangels to just take him through with comfort, because he was so deserving of comfort. And all our pets, all the animals on this planet is deserving of respect and knowledge and understanding and acknowledgement of the high vibrational beings that they are, even our domestic pets. And so we'd done all of this, and then I'd taken him downstairs. But before I took him downstairs to the vet, I was in a lot of tears, and I was in a lot of strife about, is this the right thing? And then CJ was sitting on the couch, and then he got up from the couch and he sat on Baxter's old bed. And then he looked up at me to say, I'm kind of like, I'm uncomfortable about something. And I looked at him, and I realized he'd had a bowel movement, but he hadn't been able to get up and go as far as the litter tray. And so, and then I said to him, no, don't worry. And you okay? And I just cleaned him all out. And then I cleaned up the bed, and then I put a white towel on the bed, and he went back and he sat there, because that's where he wanted to sit. And that was, for me, the confirmation that we were doing the right thing, because at this point and at this stage in his life, if he was struggling to get to the litter tray, then there wasn't a high quality of life for him, right? Anyway, so we did this, and during the day before the vet, a few hours before the vet had come, I talked to our landlord, because CJ really loved the back garden, and you'll find out very soon why, because I'll tell you this a little bit of his history. And he really loved the back garden, and the best place for him to be buried or to be having a resting place was the place that he grew up in, that he was born in, or that he came to first after he was born, the home that he had, and the garden he played in. And he would do anything to be out in the back garden. And so we dug the resting space, and we were all ready. And then after it was done, we swaddled CJ and put him in a beautiful white cotton pillowcase and wrapped him up in more towels. And we left him downstairs on the table so that he could stay the night indoors. So CJ had spent a lot of his time in my garage over the winter nights in the last 2 years. And this is where we started to bring him into the house. The story of CJ is this. His father, human father, had moved into the house next door many, many years ago. And he brought with him these 2 brown tabby kittens, a female and a male. And CJ was the male cat, or the kitten. The female cat was really an indoor cat, but CJ was wanting to just be outside, outdoors all the time. So he'd go home and have his meals, but he did not want to stay inside. So he spent most of his time outside. They lived down the other way, and their front porch looked out at the back garden, which was actually bush. And so CJ had places to explore and just hang out there and be the cat he wanted to be. And he lived life on his terms. And I'll tell you why. Because when his dad moved out of the house next door, he moved a few streets away. And CJ, this must have been about 8, 9 years ago, CJ came back here, and he kept coming. The owner, or his dad, kept coming here to take him back. And CJ kept coming back here. And this happened like 5 times. And so in the end, his dad gave up and said, well, this is where he wants to be. So he's just going to let him stay here. And so he became, when that happened, he became the cat that lived on the street that we live on, CJ. CJ, our beautiful CJ. And how he lived was, no one took him in and made him their pet, because everybody understood he didn't want to live inside. So he would eat the people that lived here, 2 tenants away from me, people that lived in my house, a Russian family, had lived here for about 7 to 9 years. They fed CJ. He didn't come into the house. He was not allowed into the house, but they fed him outside, and he slept under the front garden deck, right? And then when they stopped, Julie, the rescue, the lady with the cat rescue, she fed CJ. She gave him his meals, and she put a bed in a house, or outside a house, that it was in a sheltered area, so that a warm bed so that he could sleep in winter. And he had relationships with all people in this area. And if he was feeling hungry, he knew which house he could go to, who had a cat, that he could eat the cat's food. So he's a bit of a maverick, really lived life on his own terms. When we moved into this house 3 years ago, the day we moved in, my landlord said to me, hey, you know, Rose, we have got a cat, and his family lived next door, and he chose to live here. She told me the story that I just told you about how he came back. And she said he might come. And I thought, oh dear, I have Baxter, and Baxter just he loves to chase cats, and he just feels like they are things he should hunt. And I have trained Baxter to get on with cats before, but when I moved here, I moved into this house and I had a fractured ankle, and I wasn't even walking Baxter because I couldn't at the time. I just had the fractured ankle 2 weeks before I moved into this house. Anyway, I thought, oh no, we're going to have to find ways to keep this cat safe. Anyway, the second night of us living in the house, I was outside with Baxter about 10 p.m. And then I suddenly heard this cat talking from the other side of the gate. And our gate, you can't actually, it's a wooden gate, so you can't see who's behind the other side. And I looked through the little hole and I said, hello, how are you? And he was talking back to me, and my dog started to get really upset. However, that started the relationship that I had with CJ up until now. And I will continue to have a relationship with CJ even post this time that he has left the planet physically, because whilst he's left the planet physically, his energy still is around us, is in our energy space, is in our hearts, is in our minds, all of that. We started to have a thing with CJ where I started to build a routine with him, where I would give him his meals. We started having 2 meals a day, and then eventually went to like 5 meals a day. He was not an overweight cat, I've got to tell you that. I do still feed Baxter raw food, a raw food diet. And I was feeding CJ a raw food diet, and it was starting to look really, really well. When I used to pick CJ up and put him, like carry him like up here when he was little, he would just bite and scratch me, because he was like, who are you and why are you doing that? I can't trust you. I don't know you. But over time, I made him realize, you cannot come into my space and not get love, my friend. And I'm going to slap it on you. And so that is what I did for him. I just loved him on, kept loving on him, not giving up on him. And eventually we got to a stage where CJ would let me pick him up, and he would put his head under my chin. He would headbutt my chin, and he would just be like, oh, I love you so much. You know, that's such an amazing relationship with CJ. And in this last 3 months, you know, since we went to South Africa and my daughter's partner looked after him, CJ was coming into the house when Baxter was not here. He got to come and sit on the couch. He actually started to find that he liked being indoors. He liked being in a family situation. And he would prefer any time to be upstairs rather than in the garage, because I started this last year, I started bringing him into the house even when it was not winter. Even when it was not cold, if there was a storm, I would bring him into the house. He had his places that he would sleep at, you know, under the house and the pink bats and things like that. He had his places that kept him cozy, but I thought, no, you can be inside the house. Oh no, last winter, the first winter, we had put a little house for him in a sheltered space just outside the window here. It still is there. I haven't removed it yet, and I will do it when I'm ready. I'm not quite ready. Anyway, the first year he slept in that. Second year, I brought him into the house. The winter was so bad that I brought him into the garage, kept him safe and secure, had the heater going on there for him, because he's a cat. He loves warmth. He loves to be in comfort, you know. And then this year, we had him in most of the year. We had him inside. So we sent CJ to Furry Heaven on the 11th of January, 2024. My guides had said to me that we needed to do it by that date. What was wonderful about it was that it was the 11 portal. And I felt the urgency, the way things played out, was the right time for us to do that. And then on that day, my neighbor Diana had a lot to do with CJ. She knew when he came, she knew his owner, she knew him personally. She had spoken to him and all of that over the years. She had contact details for him. And in December, when I thought we might have to put CJ to sleep, I had tried to contact him and I couldn't get through. His number was no longer functional. And so, you know, even the email address didn't work. And so what happened was, on the day that we were on Thursday last week when we were going to do this, I'd said to Diana, this is the day. I just wanted you to know that we have decided that this is the day and we're going to be doing this. And she tried to find Steve. And she found his obituary online. Turns out that Steve had passed away in March of 2020. And I was so moved. It's interesting that the day that we were going to send CJ to heaven, we discovered that his dad was no longer, we couldn't actually contact him because his dad had passed away. He'd gone. He'd gone 3 years ago. And, you know, the cat was here And the person that loved him so much that he had chosen not to go to had already left the planet. I'm sorry. It just moved me. It was such another confirmation of closure. I don't know if closure is the right word, of yes, we're tying another loose end. And so that is how we sent CJ to furry heaven, knowing that his dad was already there in heaven and that they would connect somewhere, because this man really loved his cat. But the cat had chosen to live his life on his terms. And the man had been so loving and foregoing that he let him have what he wanted. And in this last 3 years, CJ manifested us. He manifested me. He manifested my family. And yes, I've got a crazy dog, but my dog too. You know, even when he barked at CJ, he wagged his tail. Even when he realized that CJ was down there and he should eat, he didn't, as much as he was angry and he was like, I'm going to chase you and I don't want you around. He still tolerated us feeding CJ. He would know we were feeding CJ. In the last couple of weeks, I've been smuggling CJ into the house to leave him in my bedroom. And Baxter knew something was happening. He knew it had to do with the cat. But until he saw him, he didn't start to bark. It was almost like, oh no, I don't have evidence, so I can't actually protest anything. So, friends, I want to say to you, our pets, the animals on this planet, they are such high beings. I look at it and I think there's so many things that could have befallen CJ in his life, in this, 13 to 16 years of life that he had lived. We don't know the exact date when he was born. And we don't know the exact date when Steve had moved next door, but it was thereabouts. And we know that because the person who lived across the street for 13 years had said to me 3 years ago when I moved in that CJ had been here for the same amount of time that they'd been here. He'd been here already by the time that they had come. So, and I've lived here for 3 years. So if they'd lived for 13 years there, I've lived here for 3 years. So we can assume that was the age, or maybe even older. This last few weeks, 2 very high beings went to heaven. CJ was one of them. I mentioned Frank, the Huntaway, the New Zealand Huntaway dog that had been a working dog all his life and was adopted by a family 2 streets away from us for the last two years. And then they had to make the decision to send Frank to furry heaven. And they did it on the 27th of December, 2023, which then had come to a numerology of 1, which was, isn't that interesting? 1, then 11. 1 pet went on the 1. Another one went on the 11. We hope these things do not happen in threes, but right now, even pets are exiting the planet. In CJ's case, he needed to go. In Frank's case, he needed to go because he had lived his life. He had done his stint. He had come and he had moved the people. He had done the work. Frank had done the work. CJ had done the work. He had served the purpose here. I am the better for having loved CJ, for having had CJ in my life. I had such a routine. I talked to him like I was talking to a human being. He had such a way with him. We had this thing where, I've got to sit down and feed him. Then we went through the phase of I should feed him. I should hand feed him because, that's easier rather than him putting his face into his bowl and eating his own food. He was such a baby. He was my baby. And thank you, Steve, wherever you are in the cosmos, that you brought CJ to our street and that you were so unconditional in your love that you let him have what it was that made him happy, that you forego your feelings so that he could be happy. Thank you, Steve, for bringing CJ. Thank you, CJ, for coming. I'm going to show you a picture of CJ. I have many pictures of him for the last few weeks, but they are pictures of him being unwell. I just want to show you a picture we took in December of 2022. We were going away to Queenstown for a few days. And Baxter had gone to the lady that looks after him. Here's our CJ. Baxter had gone to the lady that looks after him, and CJ could come in freely. And there he was, sitting on on the ledge of this couch. And here he looks really lovely and happy and a little bit like, ooh, why are you taking that picture of me? He didn't like pictures, I've got to tell you. Every time he tried to take a picture of CJ, he would look the other way. But here we are. We've got this beautiful picture of CJ. Never have I met a cat that is so loving and so giving. And yes, I know he scratched and bit me when I picked him up, but that's because he must have had a bad experience and someone might have picked him up and hurt him in this time of life that he lived as a maverick. Yes, he freaked out if I picked up the broom to sweep the kitchen because he'd had a bad experience with that. But he had managed to take care of himself and look this good and win the hearts of so many people. On our street, there are many mothers of CJ grieving today, this week, these last few days. We also know our lives will never be the same again without this beautiful being, this being that came and had such a relationship with all of us, whether you fed him or not, whether he got food from you or not. I'll tell you why, because my neighbor Helen, who's 94, I've never seen her put food out for CJ or water or anything like that. But when she walks down the driveway with a walking stick and she holds onto the fence, CJ walks alongside her on the top of the fence and he talks to her as she goes down the driveway. And Helen's heart was broken when CJ got sick and she knew that this was coming up, that we would have to send him to furry heaven. But here we are. This is my beautiful boy. Beautiful boy, now in peace, now out of pain. Now gone back to furry heaven, gone back to the cosmos, to heaven, whatever that is, escorted there by the dragons of Arcturus, escorted there by the crystal yellow dragon, escorted there by the sunshine yellow dragon that looks after animals, taken there by Archangel Metatron and Archangel Michael, because we invoked that. We invoke the help of this. Friends, our pets are beings of high dimensions we don't even imagine. They come to teach us. They come to help us be better. They come to help us take the journey to ourselves. If you have a pet, find ways that you can love your pet more. Find ways that you can be more in tune with your pet, because one of these days soon, they will be talking to us as if they're another human being, because that is going to become our reality. Not that they don't do that already, because, you know, your pets tell you what they want, don't they? Yes. So here is my beautiful boy, my CJ. I could have not asked for a better cat. I love cats. I've had many cats in my life, as in I've owned a cat, but I've looked after cats. I have fostered cats, but this cat has an energy that I will never quite be able to put the right word to. He had this amazing propensity to love, and to just give it to you, to slap it on you. And when he was a little bit macho with me, I gave it back to him what he was giving to me. And he could not then be that way with me, have the maverick, aloof attitude with me. He had to take my love. And I couldn't help it. I had to take his. What else was I going to do? All right. That's it. That's our CJ. I'm going to stop sharing that. And I have a card today. I'm going to share that with you because today's message comes from the Whispers of Lord Ganesha deck. And I'll tell you why, because this oracle card deck was calling to me, and it's by Angela Hartfield, and the artwork is by the artwork, I'll tell you, the name's not, here we are. Ekaterina Golovanova. Ekaterina Golovanova, beautiful artwork. I've never seen Ganesha in all these different forms. And he is here. This card is the card I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share screen. Sharing that one. Here he is, our beautiful Ganesha. Let's increase the size of that. I'll tell you why I'm sharing this with you, friends. Because when I was doing my meditation and I was asking for the guidance of the dragons and the archangels, and just was the last hour of CJ's life before we sent him off. I was really felt drawn to the Whispers of Lord Ganesha Oracle card deck. And the card I pulled was this one. This is the number 24 card, which is a numerology of 6. And you know that 6 is a number. If your life path number, for example, is a 6, it is about people with a life path number 6 have come to nurture, to support, there's this high thing of unconditional love and to look after, and they are very much people, they want to look after the collective. They will nurture, they will love. And this is the thing. I feel like my relationship with CJ was a lot about nurturing and loving and taking care and just living and being a higher perspective. Now what I'm going to do is I just want to stand up a little bit and just pull down the blinds because the sunlight's coming through and I just don't want the computer to overheat. So bear with me 1 second, friends. Okay, I'm back. This card is called Wholeness. Now that I've mentioned a little bit of the numerology, you're welcome to go and have a look at it. I did mean to have my numerology book here to explain 6, but I'm sorry, I'm not near it. But it's all right. You can find out more. It's because it's more about what the meaning of this card is. So the card is Wholeness. And look at Ganesha sitting there with the sacred geometry in the heart chakra. And all this beautiful green. I've not seen Ganesha green. He's always blue. All right. And here we've got the card that's got the green of the heart chakra. And you've got even his body has got the green, beautiful light coming through. And if you look at it here, there in his headdress, and here in his dhoti, the thing that's in his belt for his dhoti, you can see he's got the upper heart color, which is the aquamarine. Yeah, there's a little bit of the lilac in there as well, the violet color coming through. So this is very much 5th dimensional heart chakra. Right, let's read Wholeness. The little description is: acknowledge the oneness of all life. Recognize that you are part of something larger. You have a connection here with not only this life and physical body, but with the divine and the universe. Ganesha is guiding you to recognize the sacred truth that you are a divine being, here to give and receive love. It is time to recognize your role in this life. You are complete and whole as you are. You lack nothing. The simplest way to win hearts is through your actions. Green is representative of the 4th chakra, the heart chakra. The heart chakra is the center where we experience love. When the heart chakra is open, you are able to create a safe and supportive, loving environment. When the heart chakra is clear and in balance, you will find compassion for all life. You may be more empathic. You may be able to see the divine in other people. You will find you are happy and fulfilled because you are fulfilling your divine purpose in service to humanity. Your sense of self is not limited to the ego. Your consciousness will expand, and you realize that to love others is to love yourself, because we are all one. This card symbolizes peace. You are asked to take a moment and hold the color green in your heart. You may experience a soothing, relaxed feeling that will bring a sense of renewal and self-control. If you are in need of healing, breathe deeply and affirm your health and healing. My friends, look at Ganesha. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Okay, so we have got musicians mode on. I just wanted to make sure of that. But I also want to invite you now to take a moment to breathe. I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know what you're going through, but I suspect that some of you might be going through something like a pet or a family member that is now towards the end of their life. And you might be the one taking care of them. You might be the one who is to see this and go through this with them. And so today, I want to bring healing love to you and to your loved one. Remember, healing doesn't necessarily mean we heal, we become whole in the physical, and we carry on with our life. It could mean that. But healing and becoming whole also means going over, beyond the veil, crossing the stargate, going into the heavenlies, because that is a form of healing. However, you might want to do some clearing and cleansing for your pet or for your loved one before they leave, because perhaps that's what they need, the clearing and the cleansing, so they can cross over easily. Okay? So this wholeness card, I will show it in a minute. But before we get to that, and before we get to the language, I'm going to invite you to put your feet firmly, or plant your feet firmly on the ground. All right? If you're barefoot, that's even better. Wherever you are, it doesn't mean you have to be outside in nature, but if you're outside in nature, that's great. But you can be in the lounge. You can put your feet on the ground, on the floor, whatever floor it is, wooden floor, tile floor, carpet, plastic, whatever. All right? Take a deep breath, my friends. One more time. Many times we will be guardians of the last passage, because light workers, star seeds, whoever you are, even if you do not identify with that, we have come here to be who we are. And if you are one of those people that attract into your life people at the end of their life, animals, pets at the end of their life, be it 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 years, know that they come to you because you have your light. And they know that coming to you, being near you, is a reason for why you can help them cross over better. You can do the right thing for them. You can help them see their last days in comfort. You can help them see their last days as a manifestation of what they're dreaming about, even if it's your cat. Okay? Guardians of the last passage, we are not, what's the word called? That we can be the guardians of the last passage. It's because we are full of love that we are the guardians of the last passage. So my friends, if you are going through that, if you have been through something like that, let's go and invoke some language for healing. Healing for those that have gone, healing for those that are still here and are getting ready to go, and healing for ourselves. And know that you are doing your purpose. You are fulfilling your purpose on this planet. It doesn't always feel great, because we are the ones left behind with the memories. We are the ones left behind with the routine we had with these pets or with these people. And we have been programmed to be programmed. We have been programmed to routine. We've been programmed to, this one day will get easier because we will get better and better. I have to say, although I'm my heart's sore, I have a peaceful acceptance of this. I know that it was the right thing. I know that we had to do this. I just miss CJ. I love him so much. I have loved him the best of all my pets. And I said that loud enough because, to tell you the truth, my heart always went out to him that he chose to be maverick. He chose to live it rough for fulfilling his heart's purpose, for fulfilling the plan for his life. He lived life on his terms. And at the cost of starving sometimes, at the cost of not eating or not having comfort and warmth. Yeah, he was so true to his heart and his purpose. And I did my best when I came to change that for him. and show him it's okay to be inside, because you get to spend all day outside, and for the last 6 hours of the night you could sleep inside, because sometimes I'd be out there midnight calling him to come inside so he could go to bed. Yeah. So friends, let's do it. Karama ko whana katarana katu chela teta pana ko whana heta karama here. O ela mahi o malala mahi tu whana hito la kitala la maho ai. Ula ila malala la la he no la zigla badano gravana kutaya ma. E karama keta whana karavano gje. Kerama ho la mahi tu whana he la he. Oh, la 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 la, oh, la la, no, did I na 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 here? Hira baba bahono tikera mahai. Can you feel the energy of your pet? Can you feel the messages for those that still linger? Ora makita maro no na kita fanahai la mohona he. Ikara tofanahai da bekeno. Hela ma kifola ma hela me. Ijolona na hai, ijolona na hikumoro na makita mara na kutofara na hai. Ola de na hika da matudono de chilena. Hela moila hena. Oh, hena makota mana heta makata mora na he. Makara matota fara na hitukura maha. Itana kotona tene tamana chukona na teta. Ila maho, ale make. Jola katana matukuro na tikena to, tete na chila he. Hora baba hila baba no kuro fana hai. Hora baba hika na kura na fele tamahi kura na haya. Icho na haira kumahaira na he. Kirama soforana kitokorama katana karachula korama. Hira baba kuromo toto marahika na maharama kataforana hai. Yino no koto no korama tetena karavashana karahe taforana. Ya mahena mahoma. Hira mahoma mahena mahoro mahena mahaita. Ikaro mo na kutoma, sara katamaru kutoma ikaramato to tamara kechena mo to taparana ketutu fara. Kelana rukutiana wa ketana chama. Iro wa ketana wa ketana kasata to kotana te karate. Friends, I want to say to you today, I want to share this bit with you. I said CJ had slept in my bedroom, on my bed, most of the last 3 weeks. Last night I finally had this, or yesterday I finally had this. It wasn't too many days, but on the day I just couldn't get rid of all of his things. On Friday I washed all his blankets and things like that, because of course we needed to get rid of things like Baxter's bed that he might have, he'd had diarrhea on, and we needed to clean it up and throw it out and whatever, but also all his blankies. I washed all of them and things like that. But yesterday I felt ready to take his duvet cover off the bed, to change all the bedding, to wash it and all of that. And last night I slept in my bed. And I really felt, I'd lit a candle with Palo Santo in it. And I really felt that CJ had joined the higher ranks. And that actually for a while now he's going to be in my space, and he's going to be one of my guides. That's what I felt. And right now, as I was doing the language, I just kept being reminded of that, and I need to share that with you. You have no idea who you're looking after. When you take a pet in to look after, when you foster a pet, when you take a pet into your home because it was, a street cat or a dog or whatever, you have no idea who you're bringing into your home. And I'll tell you, it can only be good. It can only be, if it's an animal, if it's to make it your home, give it a home, it can only be a higher being. We do not understand the high beingness of our pets. They come to work on this planet. They work on farms. They work for us in clearing energies. They work to teach us. They come, they've got such high purpose. We are not superior to them. We are equal beings, and in sometimes we actually less wise than they are. Don't forget that. Don't forget, you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know who you let into your house. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, friends. I'm sorry about the waterworks. It just had to happen. And my life is not the same. My home is not the same right now because someone's missing in it. I will get used to this new normal, but it will take me a while. And yes, so to our friends, everyone that loves CJ, Julie, Diana, Helen, our great friend Alice in England, who's already sent some money so we could put a bunch of flowers, or we could buy a plant and plant it over CJ's resting place. We've been CJ's guardians for all this time. The Russian family that lived here, I don't know them, but they were his guardians for a time. Yeah. And Steve, that you love CJ so much, you're in the cosmos, and I hope you're catching up with them. I believe you will. Ikaramato forana kachela katapota kana biketanu kuchie karamahai. Arakutomarma katana ketoto and kashele ketatota paena karetoto. Etikaramoto forana hekatoma. We're sending peace and love to Steve right now. Steve was a man who did not have children. He did not have a wife. He lived alone. He had siblings, but he didn't have a family of his own. His cats were his family. And he had such a big heart to give and to forego CJ's life because CJ wanted to be where he wanted to be. Friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing and being patient with my story. And thank you to everyone that subscribed. I didn't say that. I'm sorry if I didn't say that. Thank you for joining our community. I hope you'll like it here, and I hope you'll stay here long. And it's not, for me, that is not it's important, but the higher purpose is more important. I hope you understand that. Thank you, friends. Namaste.